Hello and welcome to Adam Has a Podcast. Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of the day that you're logging into. Isn't that what they used to say on the Truman Show? Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, or whatever. I think that's an adequate bridge to what I want to talk about today. So, today on Adam Has a Podcast, your iPhone is watching you. And modern underwear is bad for your health. Um, let's start with number one. Your iPhone is watching you. That's the most obvious one. If you didn't know, your iPhone is constantly watching you. And I say this as I'm staring into an iPhone right now, recording it. It's watching me. But I figured this out by accident yesterday, so I'll tell you a little anecdote. I knew in the back of my mind that they were coming out with attention awareness features, and they did that way back a while ago with like Android and things like that. It came to Android before it came to iPhone, and now it's on both. In the early days, I always turned attention awareness off, and so I assumed that I did that with this iPhone. And yesterday, I was waiting for a package. I bought some rocks off the internet and they arrived like a month early. So I was super excited. I woke up to the notification. It was like, it's out for delivery. And I was like, no way. That wasn't supposed to happen for another 15 days. So I was super excited. But part of that excitement was every time I heard a truck outside that sounded like a mail truck or anything like that, I would get really nervous and I'd be like, oh no, it's here. Because we've had experience with like packages being dropped off and then being taken almost immediately. So I'm like, every time I hear a truck, I'm like, yo, is that my package? I wanna run out immediately and go grab it just in case, just to be sure, just to make sure nothing bad happens. Because I was super excited for these stones, dude. Fucking awesome rocks. I like rocks, dude. I'll fucking spend $10 on a small rock on the internet, bro. I don't give a fuck. I'll buy a tiny. You want to see a tiny rock that I bought? It's actually pretty cool. I don't know what to do with it, so I made it. That's a $10 rock right there. I made it into a little like vape fucking charm. Yeah, it sucks. I can't get it to focus, but it's cool. It's tanzanite, so when you turn it one way, it's a different color than when you turn it the other way, but all you can see is one color right now. Where was I? Yeah, dude, this is a $10 rock right here, bro. And I got that shit on sale. That was 70% off. So that's a $70 little rock right there. I got it to focus. There we go. That works. Can't really see the color change too good under this lighting, but it's really cool. It's like you turn it one way and then you turn it the other, and the color change is so immediate and so clear. It's like flipping a switch. It's very amazing. Yeah, I bought that shit 70% off, so I would have been spending $70 on that one little rock right there. I think that's how math works. I think I'm doing my math wrong. I just realized that. But yeah, dude, I was excited for these rocks. And I have cameras, so every time a truck would drive by outside, I would check the camera real quick just to make sure that it wasn't a mail truck, and so that I could relax. And I opened the camera app, and I was looking at it, and I was watching TV at the same time. And I was looking at it, and I kept watching TV. But then a mail truck did come, and it was like a USPS truck, but he was like waiting in the truck or whatever. And so I said, well, he might have the package. It says it's coming by a different company, but sometimes they'll use the USPS. So he might have the package. Let me just leave this open and see if he comes to our house with a package. So I put the phone to the side, and I left the camera app open, and I was looking at it, and I was looking at it for like 3 or 4 minutes, and I was like, this dude's not getting out of his truck. He was doing paperwork or something. I was like, he's not getting out of his truck yet. I'm just gonna watch my show. And I went back to watching TV. And 10 seconds after I went from looking at the iPhone to looking at the TV, iPhone screen dimmed. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a second. I didn't touch the phone the entire time, and the screen didn't dim at all until I looked away. So this is when the schizo activation started. And I was like, dude, my iPhone's watching me, man. This thing's locked. The camera app is watching me, watch them, watch me, watch them. So I took out a timer on another device, and I sat there and I watched the camera app, and I watched it until it went dim. I sat there and I watched it, and I watched it, and I watched it, and I watched it, and I was like, dude, at least 2 or 3 minutes have passed so far. So I checked the timer, and it's at like 5 minutes, and I'm like, no fucking way. And then I looked away at the timer, and as soon as I looked away at the timer, it dimmed. And I went, okay, so here's a good opportunity for me to test how long it dims if I'm not paying attention. So I touched the screen, and then I laid the phone down. So there was like no facial data of me looking at it. I just laid it down, and it went dark like within 30 seconds. I think my screen time is set to like 10 seconds or something like that. It's set to super soon. And it went dim almost immediately, and I was like, dude, this is proof right here. And then I tried catching it on video. But the weird thing is when I set up another camera to record me watching it, it consistently turned off at 30 seconds every single time. It's like it kind of knew or could like establish that there was a camera that was recording this instance of me trying to say, hey, I'm looking at my screen right now, and then when I look away, it'll turn off. So I went down this rabbit hole, but then I kind of had that moment where I was like, light bulb moment, attention awareness features. And I went into my settings and I searched it up real quick. And I was like, attention? And that's all you have to do if you want to turn this off for yourself. You just search up attention in your settings, and it's the first thing, attention awareness, and you just turn it right off. Attention awareness basically means that they can use algorithms, but I'm not really sure how much of it is an algorithm and how much is just like what we learned with Meta recently, is that they were taking videos and then sending them to real humans to like evaluate. So we don't know how much of the attention awareness is an algorithm or how much of it is, being captured and sent away to human reviewers, who are just watching you, watch them, watch you, watch them, So I immediately turned that off. And I was like, why was that even on? I must have turned it on at some point in the past or forgotten to have turned it off when I got an iPhone. But yeah, especially with the Meta stuff that has recently come out, I'm actually extremely uncomfortable. Beforehand, I was like, I don't care, watch me through my camera. But now that I'm like, okay, they're actually like, on one hand, the company themselves is sending it to human developers, but then I started thinking, Apple is in the business of selling technology, so they're not going to ever advertise that there are back doors into their equipment. So I started thinking, what if somebody was using the attention awareness feature as a backdoor to then monitor another person? So that was the point that I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to turn this off, because I trust Apple with having this analytical data, but I do not trust that Apple is the only one with access to this analytical data. And I also don't trust that maybe they won't sell it to the highest bidder. You know what I'm saying? I can't trust that Apple won't take my information. And then if somebody comes in, they're like, hey, I want Adam Capella's information. Here's $1.2 million. They won't say, fuck yeah. They won't, you know what I'm saying? Um, and that kind of goes into the second portion that I wanted to talk about today, which is modern underwear is bad for you. And this kind of goes into the same kind of like companies don't really care about you specifically, even though that might be like their tagline or like their, like Apple, for example, is trying to sell like the image of luxury. Um, and you know, underwear is one of those things that is like you need to wear your underwear, dude. Go wear underwear. Um, everybody has to wear underwear. It's not like for me at least, it wasn't a question. It was like underwear goes under your clothes. You put your underwear on first, and then you put your pants on, and that's just how stuff goes. Um, but then I got those ones with the ball holster, and I started noticing I was getting like cramps in my legs. Um, and I also noticed that, and I noticed this ever since I was little, that I have like an elastic band line around my waist where suddenly I have like muscle tone in my stomach, like abdominal muscles, abdomen, not abdominal, abdom. Anyways, the muscles they stop, and the fat as well. So like your stomach fat, mine stops at the right at the line where my underwear always sits, and there's like this very distinctive, like crushing of my body right at the waistline where my underwear elastic always is. So, to me, this says that the human body is not designed nor strong enough to overcome the elastic tension of these manufactured materials. And thus, we're only like, what, 100 years into having elastic materials? Thus, it's having an effect on human biology. You're squishing everything down there. But in the same way that Apple doesn't want you to know that they have a back door to watch you whenever they want and anybody can access it, the underwear companies don't want you to know that the fucking underwear elastics are squishing your balls or your lady bits to the, I don't know if it matters as much for ladies actually. So ladies, if you're watching, do you want to chime in? Tell me about, you know, do you have the same like crushing from every woman I've ever seen? They don't have the same kind of like, it's like this band, dude. And maybe my underwear is too small. Maybe that's what I'm figuring out. But what I decided is, you know what? No more elastic waists. I'm not doing elastic waists anymore. Something in the elastic is constricting the blood flow, and it's causing my lower body, my entire lower body, to be smaller than my upper body. My upper body has like a certain like width and mass to it that seems and feels natural, but where I have that line that have had constant tension my entire life, there's suddenly this like break in my fascia, this break in my like muscle tone, where this artificial muscle has been kind of like pushing everything together. And that's essentially what elastic is. It's like an artificial muscle. And you're saying, well, if elastics are so bad for you, then why are they putting it in all the underwear? Because they want the fertility rates to drop. Because they want those people that can't assume these things to not assume these things and then keep going on with their lives, and that's how their experiments go. They'll say, well, this seems sort of safe, let's go try it out, and then they try it out on 1 million people, and when 100,000 come back they realize, Ooh, that wasn't sort of safe. That was okay-ish, but not exactly 100% safe. That's like a 10% out of a million, 100,000 is like 10%. If 10% of your population is having an adverse effect to your product, I would say that um, it's not on that 10% of the population. I would say it's on the product. And I would say that that 10% of the population is a canary in the coal mine. It's like an early warning system that, hey, this is something that's going to later affect the rest of your population as a whole. So, what I'm suggesting is we all start wearing full latex suits. That way, the elastic pressure will be fully dispersed across your entire body. And then your body can grow naturally while having this sort of like outer shell muscle. So like where we have the the fascia holding in our muscles underneath our skin, we'll have this external fascia of these super tight spandex uh, suits. Maybe sometimes they could be made out of latex or like any other elastic material. And what we'll do is we'll wear them underneath all of our clothes. That will be what underwear is from now on. They'll be like long johns, but it'll be your entire body just covered in this like elastic material that just kind of shapes you to what you should be like. I'm fucking around right now. What we should do actually is I cut out underwear completely. I haven't worn underwear in like 2 or 3 weeks. So, and I've noticed an actual improvement in things from not wearing underwear. Take that as you will. I don't know, but I mean, like there's like some pants I'd wear underwear with. It's like jeans. I haven't worn jeans in 2 weeks. I live in a climate where I can go that long without wearing jeans. Jeans, I think, are the pants that I would wear underwear with because you can't wash your jeans every time you wear them. You know what I'm saying? So it does serve as a necessity, and you see how like that logical thinking got everybody on board. Like, yo, underwear does serve a necessity. Yo, iPhones do serve a necessity. It gets everybody on board. And then once everybody's on board, that's when they can start experimenting. That's when they can start doing little things like, hey, will this attention awareness feature work? It's working really well on the Androids. Let's see if we can bring it over to iPhone if people enjoy that. And me personally, it made me really uncomfortable. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was using the camera app and I was using my security cameras, and I was like, maybe I personally felt a little creepy, being like, I'm watching the mailman while he doesn't even know that I'm looking at him. Maybe I felt a little creepy in that instance, and then when I noticed the attention awareness feature, that made me feel creeped out by like what would have been my own behaviors. Like somebody else is watching me now. Now I'm creeped out by somebody I can't see watching me, just like how that person might feel creeped out a little bit that somebody watching them, they can't see. But let's see, this is psychologic, it's psychologic. Psychology right there, like where the feeling originated from the self. And so then I had to change the perspective for me to really realize the feeling that I was giving myself. You know what I mean? Um, what I was going to like quell anxiety. I was going to the camera to quell anxiety, so I wouldn't have to run outside and check the mailbox every 10 minutes. Um, was actually partially contributing to an underlying anxiety. Um, it's like a catch-22. It's you can't really win one way or the other, and that's the same thing with the underwear thing. It's like a catch-22. You can't really win one way or the other. I started looking into it for like non-elastic underwear, and they're like $60 a pop, dude. So like you either like one thing I did was I cut the elastics off of a pair of underwear. so much better. They fit better, they felt better. It was just so much more comfortable. So maybe that's something you could do if you're in the same boat as me. But yeah, dude, you know what I kind of noticed too is like, oh man, for people that really do have that preference of no elastic, like maybe you're allergic or something, or maybe you do have this awareness that the elastics are bad for you, this kind of like knowledge. Even if you have the knowledge, you're going to have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to actually get the product. And that's the same kind of thing with like iPhone. It's like you have to spend an exorbitant amount of money before you even get the iPhone. So like, but the likeliness that you'll take it apart and figure out how it works and like, you know, get into all the back doors that they have is pretty low. In the same exact way that like when you buy a pair of underwear, the likeliness that you're going to cut off the elastics on every single pair immediately, that's pretty low likeliness. But both are like results of corporations basically experimenting on humankind. With products that they think are, you know, iPhone, it's premium, but underwear, it's like run of the mill. These are the products that we can make the most of at the cheapest because, you know, they're underwear. They're not going to really be seen. They're going to be, you know, worn every day and then thrown out. They need to be durable. We need durable, you know, long lasting materials. What do we have? Elastic works well. You know, there might not have been any nefarious thought into it. It might have just been like, hey, how do we save money on these drawstrings? Well, we don't have to add drawstrings or, you know, sew a pocket along the edge for the drawstring to go into all these, you know, undergarments if we just replace a drawstring with elastic. And that could also be an example of why drawstring boxers are more expensive, is because more manufacturing energy needs to go into actually manufacturing the pocket for the drawstring and then putting the drawstring in. And then, you know, whereas elastic's cheap, you know, it's cheap. You just spin it out, you put it on a loom, it automatically attaches itself and it's done. You do it all on a machine. And that's the problem. Where you can make a profit, humanity oftentimes takes a hit. That's kind of what, like, I don't really know how to, that seems really depressing to end it there. But that's kind of where I was heading with this, you know. It starts with attention awareness features, but then it grows into, you know, wear a camera on your face 24/7, even while you're taking a shower. Like, that's exactly how it went with the Meta AI and everything. It went from these people love their cameras so much, and we love all the data that we can get off their cameras. Let's just slap a camera on their face so that they can have their cameras 24/7, and then we can also have full access to the data that they're producing. And that's how they make a buck. And in the same way, the underwear companies make a buck by cutting costs and trying to get the cheapest materials and finding the easiest way to produce a pair of underwear that you actually start to get a product that is detrimental. It's starting to cause more damage than the implied good it was doing. And the implied good is what? Catches my farts? Underwear doesn't even catch your farts, dude. It's like a fucking, you know, just an extra layer that farts don't even get caught in. They do have that pair of underwear that does catch farts, actually. So, I don't know there, you know, but once again, that's an expensive pair of underwear. You got to spend $60 for a pair of underwear that it catches farts. You know, at a certain point, might as well just not wear underwear, you know. Especially, it's more comfortable, dude. I will admit, though, got a lot of sticking going on. Guys, you know what I mean. I got a lot of sticking going on lately. That's nothing a wide step can't take care of. Yeah, I didn't want to end it on that, like, companies don't really give a fuck about people. So if you think a company gives a fuck about you, you should really think twice message. But that is the most pertinent message of this entire fucking little podcast here that I felt like sitting down to record. Is basically, underwear is bad for you and your iPhone is watching you. That's all. So I guess if you managed to hang along till the end, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, night, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever. Keep it easy out there, and peace.